Today I'm gonna have a quick tutorial here in which I'm gonna show you how to create a very simple family budget using Excel. Now this will be oriented towards the novice Excel user, so I'm gonna refrain from using any complex formulas and functions. It really has to be a simple yet functional family or personal budget in Excel. Now, before we start and I show you how to do that, I'm going to show you the final product first, so you will get to choose whether you continue watching that video or you carry on with other suggestions. Now, this is going to be a simple table. In each column you have each month of the year, and then in each row below that month you will have three main categories. Number one, it will be monthly expenses. Excel will calculate these for you. Number two will be your monthly income, the amount of money you got. And number three, Excel will calculate the balance, what's left at the end of the month, something rather important. After that, you can put as many rows as you want with the different expense categories, the different things that you spend money on every month. And one other neat thing that this Excel table will do is it will actually automatically color code each expense after you enter it with different colors that would suggest, from a very first glimpse, whether you did well that month or you overspent on a certain type of expense items. So let me show you how it works. I deliberately left February empty here. So let's say in February my net income was $5,000. And now let's start putting the expenses. Let's say for bread I spent $47. You can see it calculates it towards the monthly expenses, and it assigns it a different color depending on how does it compare with the average of money spent for bread for the months from August through February. Now let's go for toys. Let's say for kids toys we spent $90. Again, it seems to be about the average. Barbecue gas, let's say we didn't spend any, still that's in the green zone. Milk, let's think 120. You see, it says, oh, it's pretty good here in the green zone for milk. Winter clothes, let's say we spent $340. Right away I get that warning. Okay, you overspent for that type of expenses. So I'm just gonna randomly punch in some numbers here so that I don't waste more of your time. There you go. So the month of February is filled now with all the expenses I had. And now I can see overall monthly expenses $2,030. It immediately color coded it green, which means this seems to be one of the months I spent significantly less than the others. And oh, look at that, for the first time in many months I'm actually on the plus side of the balance here. I have almost $3,000 left for my savings. And then the other thing that this table will do, it will generate a graph. So when you click here, you have that graph which will show you the trend of your monthly expenses. Alright, so if you liked that, let's show you how to do it yourself. It's going to be quick, it's going to be easy. So let's open a new Excel sheet and let's start with that graph. As you remember, the first row will contain all the months of the year. So let's type January. And now I'm going to show you a neat trick with Excel. You don't have to type them, all of them, January, February, etc. till the 12th month. Just type the first month. You can go with Jan or January, up to you. And then once you've done that, you see how there is a teeny-weeny small rectangle in the lower right corner of that cell. Now take the cursor there, put it over that square, and you see how the cursor turned into this plus. So now press and hold the left mouse button and start dragging the mouse to the right, just highlighting more and more cells until you do 12 cells. Release the mouse button, and you see how Excel actually filled them all, and it filled the series, the logical series, from January till December. So we did that pretty fast, right? So now let's do the rows. We've done the columns, let's do the rows. So row number 2 will be your monthly expenses. Row number 3 will be your monthly income. And row number 4 would be your monthly balance. Now, let's add the different categories of expenses. I'm just gonna make them up. You decide what you spend money on. If you want, it doesn't have to be categories. You might actually put, this is my MasterCard, my Visa card, my MasterCard number 2. Up to you to decide how to group those expenses. But I'm gonna just put several categories. Just made up: bread, gas, auto expenses, I don't know, any kind of repairs you do on your vehicle, clothes, groceries, or just food, kids' toys, furniture, etc. So you decide how many of those you're gonna put and which ones are the important ones you want to actually follow. Now, one thing you'll notice is that this column, the content of this column, is slightly larger and it protrudes into the other one. I'm going to make a separate video on automatic formatting. For now, I'm just going to tell you that happens. Put the mouse cursor here, press and hold the left button of the mouse, and make that column wide enough to accommodate these the text in it. Alright, so now we have the table, now we have the columns and the rows. Now let's start with the formulas. In this Excel table, we're going to have two types of formulas. Now, monthly expenses. The monthly expenses will be the sum of all the numbers put here, right, for each month. So click on this cell and start typing the formula. And the formula is equals SUM, like sum, bracket. Now go with your mouse, position the cursor on the first cell in that row, in that column of cells that will contain all the expenses for the month of January. Then press the left button of the mouse and hold it while moving the cursor to actually select and expand that selection that you can see so that it includes all the cells in the month that show the expenses for the month of January. Alright, I'm done. I can release the mouse button now. Then don't forget to close those brackets in the formula, and then you hit enter. And this is it. Now this cell will calculate, will make a sum of all the values in these cells. Now we want to transfer that formula for every month of the year, right? So just as we did with the months, we're gonna do the same thing here with the formula. Take your cursor, put it on the tiny square in the lower right corner, hold the left mouse button pressed and move that cursor until the end, until column M, which is your column for December. You can verify whether everything went fine by just double clicking on any of those cells, and you will see the formula, and you will see actually visually the cells that will be added, the values of which will be added to get that final amount here. So as you can see, Excel logically transferred the formula for each month. Now, when it comes to monthly income, we can do the same thing. We can have Excel calculate the different types of different incomes into one cell, but for the simplicity of this specific tutorial, I will leave it to you. You will be the one who would actually punch in those numbers. What is your monthly income? So now let's do the next cell, which will be the monthly balance. What's left at the end of the month after you remove all the expenses out of your income. So here we're going to type in the following formula: equals. Now click the cell above, cell B3, which is your monthly income. You see it automatically populated here. Minus, you type minus, and then click cell B2, which will be your monthly expenses, right? And this is done. So we're going to do the same thing to transfer that formula until the end of the cell, until the month of December. Once again, double click randomly just to make sure that Excel logically transferred the formula, and it did. So at this point we are done with our formulas. At this point we are ready to start typing values here. But one thing we're going to do before doing that is, as you remember, there was this really nice color coding which gives you an idea whether you overspent or you spent the average amount, or you actually did pretty well and saved on certain type of expenses. So let's do that. In order to have it done, is you just click on a row. This is one of those expenses rows. You see when I click on the number 6 here, it highlights the entire row. So now go up to the ribbon where it says styles, choose conditional formatting, click there, then go to color scales, and now I want you to select the second one here where it says red, yellow, and green color scale. Click it. Nothing happened, right? But actually it did. So let's do the same thing for all those rows. This sets Excel to monitor the content of each row and to always calculate the average value from all the values in that row and to compare each newly added value to that number and then color code it. And the both extremes will be red for the highest number and green for the lowest number, and anything that's around the average would be yellow or orange. So we did that here. Now let's do the same thing for monthly balance and monthly income. For monthly balance, you want the highest number to be green, right? This is unlike the expenses where the more you spend, the worse it is for your budget. In the monthly balance category, the more you have here, the better it is for your budget. So now when you go to conditional formatting and you go to color scales, choose the first one. Choose green, yellow, red rather than the other way around. So we're going to do this. Same applies to your monthly income. You really want this to be as high as possible. So once again, you choose that color scheme. When it comes to monthly expenses, the most, well, at least in the way we present the data, the most important row. The higher that number is, the worse it is. Therefore, we want the highest number to be red and the smallest number to be green. So once again, as in the expenses types, we're going to choose the second one here. Click it. And this is it. You have added the formulas. You have set the conditional formatting. Now, how about we make it a bit prettier, this table, right? So let's give it a border. Let's select that region here where your data will be contained. Go to font and click the borders button. Choose thick box border. So now at least visually you can see the table better. You can play with that. You can see how many different types of borders you have, so you can make it according to your taste and your feeling of aesthetics. What I'm going to do is I'm just gonna set this thick border. I'm going to change the colors of the months. Let's set it into something that's not annoying, a different task. A difficult task actually considering Excel's new colors. But there you go. So this is my table. Now let's set up the chart. Remember when I showed you the final product, there was a chart, a graph that shows you visually how your expenses fluctuate from month to another. So in order to do that, left button and hold it and highlight with your mouse all of the months and the cells below them, in other words the total expenses for each month. Once it's highlighted, go up to the ribbon and click Insert. Then go to the Charts region and click Line. Select the first graph. There you go. You have the graph. It popped up in your Excel page. This is a rather annoying place to have it, though. I don't want it here. I want it to be in a different sheet. So what I'm going to do is, having clicked on that graph, I'm going to click the button here that says Move Chart. And I will choose to move it to a new sheet, which will be called, well, Chart 1 suffices. Click OK. Chart is gone. It actually moved to a new sheet called Chart 1, as you can see. Now, another thing I'll do is, because I hate it looking like that, I really prefer to have all my numbers nicely shown, nicely visualized below the x-axis. So I'm going to click here. This will change the layout. These numbers are very, very tiny. I can't see anything. Therefore, I'm going to double click it. And here in this menu, I'm going to change the font size into something that's more visible, like 18, let's say. Don't get bothered by the fact that the chart is empty. Of course, it's going to be empty because we haven't added values yet. But at this point, we have completed our work. At this point, you have your family budget table set up. Now let's see how it works. Let's see how nicely it performs. So let's start. Let's assume that in January through March we had, and even through April, we had the same income. Let's say it was about 6,800 net income per month, and now let's start adding the different expenses we had for each month. So I'm just gonna make them up. It's gonna be random numbers. Don't get annoyed if you see that. Let's say I spent $5,600 for bread. I'm doing it just for the sake of showing you how this graph works, how this table works. On gas, let's put 200 here. On auto repairs, I don't know, 560, etc, etc. Furniture, let's put $2,000, after all it's furniture. Now you can see once I added those values, they got automatically highlighted in different colors. Of course they're going to be red for the first time because this is the highest value added ever for the year. But once I start adding the values for the other months, you'll see how these colors will change based on the average and how that current cell compares to this average value. Well, that's a bit too much for food, even though I'm making up the numbers. Furniture, let's say this month I spent 4,000 for furniture. So now you have two different colors. Of course you have two values, there is nothing in between, it's just the highest and the lowest value. But now we're going into March. Adding random values. Oh, we did spend a lot of money for toys in March, didn't we? Let's see. So, I guess at this point you get how this table works. And this is your family budget. So now you can see what happens is when you look at that row of numbers, you realize, well, I really overspent here. Without even looking at the number, you quickly realize, oh, in February I spent $5,600 for bread. But this month, April, I'm doing pretty well compared to the rest of my months. So, good job, you know, high five myself. Now, on gas, however, this month, the current month of April, I seem to be doing really poorly. I seem to be spending a lot of money on gas because it's red versus the previous months. And so forth. I guess at this point you get how it works. And same thing applies to these categories here, which are rather the most important ones. How much I spent at the end of each month. And I can see that April was the worst. April is a solid red there. Now when it comes to monthly income, well, it's all the same, so it's all green. Monthly balance, well, only in the month of January I ended up without any debt. The rest of them are pretty bad, and April once again seems to be the worst. Why is it worst? Because, well, I can see two deep red cells here. I overspent on gas and I overspent on kids' toys. And now, before we finish, let's take a look at that chart. Let's see what happens in the graph. Alright, so now you can see that the graph starts getting updated. This is on the x-axis you have all the months, and on the y-axis you have the amount spent for each month. And now you can see how things are going. We're currently in the month of April. You can see how you have a pretty bad and nasty trend of increasing your expenses over the months. These months here will show us 0 until you populate them there. So this is it. This is the simplest way you can create a functioning and informative personal budget in Excel. If you like it, do it, use it at home. I'm actually using something similar, a bit more complicated, but once again, the purpose of today's video was to be simple as well. And if you like it, if you want more tutorials, whether it's going to be Excel or any other software, feel welcome to leave a note or to send me an email, and we can discuss it and I can publish it for you.